Hey, what's up, guys? How you guys doing? Oh man. Oh man. A hoot and a holler, I'll tell you what. How you guys doing? You guys doing all right? I'm trying to get over my tension headaches. The headache is pretty much I feel like the headache's pretty much gone. Now it's just like this tightness in my neck. I need to see a chiropractor. What's up, Edwin? Raid of the White Leopard. Yeah. That's coming up if I'm not mistaken. Check it out, peeps. Some sweet Viking action, if memory serves me correctly. But yeah, as the title implies, this insanity that's going on involving video games, anime, and Matt Walsh, TheQuartering, and now bounding into comics, it's it is absolutely insane. And we're beginning to see all of this like kind of trickle down sort of thing, like with the whole Steven Crowder situation. It's like, a snowball effect is happening amongst the conservative movement, I guess you could say. And it definitely is starting to show that, and this is something I've always believed in as well, is both sides are not good. Both sides are not good. I may lean, you know, what are those tests that say moderate conservative, I guess you could say, but I've said it in a couple past streams as well. They're all in the same orgy. Now, I'm not talking specifically like um like your Daily Wire or sort of shit. I mean, some people may think so. When I say that, I prefer more of deep state, the government for sure. You got your libtards and you got your rhinos. But the reason why I wanted to kind of give my thoughts about this, as I'm sure many other people are doing already or have done already, because they're good at getting on top of that stuff right away, while I is not. But to me, I wanted to comment on it just because this is kind of what the whole point of the Power Up podcast was talking about, is this stuff right here. And I've said it before, is that it's bad enough when we have the left side, uh, one, highly infesting entertainment, two, pushing it really hard to push stupid ideologies. It's bad enough we have that already, but now this infighting that's happening with the right, and I said it before, the right is doing a shit job in combating the culture war in the sense of entertainment. When you have people like Matt Walsh just umbrella everything into, well, it's demonic, or it's for children, or it's childish, or it's evil, that sort of stuff. That doesn't help. Uh, and I actually like did a show not too long ago again with Gary Wayne, going more scriptural based, or at least what the culture at the time was, talking about like is that sort of stuff truly demonic? And it ultimately comes down to the fact of things can be used good for good and things can be used for bad. And the real question is, what is actually, like, what is just using elements to portray a story, and what is using elements to like trick people, I guess you could say, into like doing something that's against their will or something like that. Um, and this is something like, you can kind of take back to the satanic panic sort of thing where everything's evil. And it's like, well, no. I mean, they might be using things that, if you look into the history of it, might have some demonic roots or something like that. But, we of the faith obviously can guard our hearts and understand that, like, it's just being entertainment value and whatnot, and that, one shouldn't take it seriously. But then, of course, that ties into the whole like children aspect of, should children be participating in this and whatnot. And obviously, the biggest thing that's happening is Matt Walsh's comment, and with the quartering, and even now with with bounding into comics, which I kind of wanted to look at too. I mean, I've given my thoughts about Matt Walsh as a person. I don't denounce the idea or the fact of the research that obviously the Daily Wire, including Matt Walsh, has gone into like providing information that people can take from. I actually saw the "What Is a Woman" document; thought it was really good. Jeremy, I'm indifferent with Jeremy. I've tried watching his stuff. Couldn't super get into it, but then again, maybe I was watching the wrong like subject matter or what have you or whatnot. So kind of indifferent about that. And then of course, bounding into comics, I've brought up articles with bounding into comics, and have my thoughts about that. But you know, uh, my biggest thing, of course, is this retarded infighting. One could say infighting. I think in a tweet, Jeremy said he's not conservative, which is fine. I don't care. But this stupid infighting of pissing off people who may enjoy anime or video games like Matt Walsh does. And I'll say this right now. I don't have it pulled up, but the whole thing when he kind of made a comment about, I think it was in like a Q&A session with him commenting on like anime and video games and stuff. Uh, I personally believe, and it's just me, he was serious about that. I know in other stuff, like people are like, oh, he was joking and stuff like that. And it's like, if you watch his demeanor and his personality, he's not joking. And he's never given off the I'm very like stale, like I tell jokes like this, haha, sort of thing. Like he doesn't give that off to me. He definitely gives off the douchebag vibe. Not gonna lie, he gives off the douchebag vibe. And it's fine if you provide information that people can use and to figure out for themselves, what's true and what's not. And I say true loosely, of course. But that's just my take of Matt Walsh. Like I said, Jeremy, I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, so I can't give an opinion about Jeremy per se. And of course, with bounding into comics, I've read their stuff. Some of it very questionable that we'll get to. But let's hop into it. I've got some stuff pulled up, and we've got the Matt Walsh bounding into comics article written not too long ago, today even. We got Matt Walsh triggers Jeremy TheQuartering Hambley with Christian teaching about moderation and discipline in regards to video game. Now, something that immediately caught my eye that I will not pull my punches on. When it comes to bounding into comics and Matt Walsh, from the stuff that I saw, that I've gathered, both have a Catholic background. And I will be the first to tell you that the Catholics are not perfect. And in fact, there's a lot of paganism inserted into Catholicism. I will tell you that right now. And so I found it very interesting that they kind of, well, I don't know. I haven't read the article yet, so maybe I'm wrong. But it just was funny to me that bounding into comics kind of, from according to this title, sides with Matt Walsh during this. So let's go ahead and see what this has to say. And I do have, by the way, I did find Walsh's video game pieces. We'll take a look at that article as well, and then some other stuff too. So Daily Wire host Matt Walsh recently triggered YouTube personality Jeremy Hambley, aka TheQuartering, after he shared pretty basic Christian teachings on moderation and discipline in regards in video games. Now, I'm hoping they go into what exactly the teachings are. And again, it could be maybe in a video that's exclusive to Daily Wire. I haven't really seen anything. But I want to know specifically what teachings they're talking about. So hopefully this article will kind of provide that. So Walsh tweeted back in March 8th, 2018, video games has Video games are a sacred cow because our country is filled with adults who are obsessed with them. That's why we all pretend insanely that there's nothing wrong with or disturbing about a child spending all day killing people in a virtual world. So this right here is very biased because not every video game involves killing. Like this is like you have your educational games, as crappy as they are, you know. Um, but it's amazing on how he instantly went towards the video games that involve violence right away. Now, I will immediately state my bias that from what I've seen and from what I deduce myself, I see no correlation between video games and violence. I think of Mo Howard from the Three Stooges when on the Michael Douglas show he points out the fact on how a lot of parents, hey Loki, what's up? A lot of parents, mostly the mothers, did not like the Three Stooges, for example, for their slapsticks and their violence. And Mo pointed out the fact that he actually asked a child psychologist, do the antics of the Three Stooges, can that influence a child to go and do that sort of behavior too? I mean, you can do the finger snapping and the flicking, and yeah, even the eye poking, to which Mo, whenever there was a live show, Mo would always tell people, do not do this at home. Kids, don't try this at home. Even though we've been doing it, we're not perfect and I can miss, at times. Mo has stated that during live performances when he was alive. And interestingly enough, the child psychiatrist Mo said ultimately it really doesn't make a difference, because if the person already has a problem, it's no different than them watching Three Stooges antics and doing Three Stooges antics than it would be to watching a Western and doing that stuff. But right here, this tweet, and you have the tweet right here, becoming the sacred cow because our country is filled with adults who are obsessed with them. That's why we all pretend and saying that there's nothing wrong with or disturbing about a child spending all day killing people in a virtual world. Again, killing people in a virtual world. One, you're pointing it out right there. It's a virtual world. No one cares. It's a virtual world. No one gives a shit. Second of all, there are plenty of video games that don't have any killing in them. Educational video games, for example. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? There's no killing in those video games. There might be little snippets of when you're on the right trail and the bad guy tries to leave a bomb or something and it explodes and something like that, but nothing gets hurt. It's no different than cartoons. It all has to do with the people, with the person and stuff like that. And it comes down to the parents, are their parents just getting bad games and giving it to them, sort of thing? Yeah, it's only virtual, exactly. Yeah. My point is that it all depends on the person. And maybe Matt does get to that where it depends on the person and stuff like that. But this is not how you win the culture war when you say stupid shit like this. Because there's people who like video games just from the technology point of view, what goes into it, the programming, the coding, and stuff like that. And why does he immediately go to? It involves going around murking people. Since we want to bring up the whole faith element and whatnot, what if it's a video game that talks about the times of Nero? And you're a Christian trying to spread the word, spread the gospel of Christ. Death was a big part of the Greek, the Greco-Roman sort of era, that sort of thing. Nero killed a bunch of Jews. Nero was sadistic. It's down to the person's mindset, really. It is. And I think you could make the argument that when it comes to someone who's maybe a sociopath, that could make an argument, but with normal people, who knows the difference between right and wrong. I mean, I personally think it's been inherited by God. God has easily made it clear for human creation the difference between right and wrong, sort of thing. Now, I will also get into the argument of some people of the faith will be on the you're not supposed to glorify violence and stuff like that. Now, I'll make the argument that that was more of a cultural historical thing at the time. Uh, like, for example, during the days of Noah, and you had Nephilim hybrids running around due to the fallen angels having sex with daughters and creating hybrids. And they did that out of fear, to where if you don't worship us, we're going to kill you in the most horrifying way. That's one thing. Same with the Romans and the Greeks, with the Colosseum and stuff like that. That escalated into just animals fighting, to having human versus animals, to having humans versus humans, and they all enjoyed it, sort of thing. But I'm going off on a tangent. Back in October, Walsh also was asking in all-access Q&A sessions what his thoughts on animes were. Okay, I'm glad they brought this up because I remember this. He answered, "I think it's all satanic." Yep. And I'm going to be the one that tell you he was not kidding when he says that. I think I've heard down the road he was like, "Oh, he was just kidding." It's like, no, he wasn't. I have no argument for why it is satanic. It just seems that way to me. Well, then don't make open statements about that. Because I can give you plenty of reasons why it's not satanic. Neon Genesis Evangelion, for example, uses a bunch of Christian symbolism and stuff like that. And Anno straight up just said, we thought it looked cool. There you go. This is the same thing. This is a whole this sort of mindset is the stupid bullshit that they pulled with Pokemon. That Pokemon was satanic and stuff like that. Again, it's this umbrella. It's this sort of this umbrella sort of thing, which anime is an umbrella of sorts. And that's also what the problem I have with like the voiceover industry and the dubbing industry, because they're trying to tell you that anime, which is an umbrella with the whole LGBTQ sort of thing, that is where that is the origin of anime. No, it's not. Not even remotely close. It's a it's a niche of a niche. Now, I do think that there are stuff in the anime genre that is very, very pushing the line, sort of thing. I'll tell you that right now. But again, this is the whole satanic panic sort of thing, to where it's like, oh, it's tricking people into doing something demonic. No. It's one thing to maybe there's some sort of demonic element to it again, but that goes back into like the pre-flood days and whatnot, where I think there is a knowledge, there can be good and bad, and what can influence it definitely does play a part in this, but to say it's inherently bad, no. Not to mention anime came from from us bombing them with the atomic bomb, and them using artistic expression to express their frustration and all that stuff. Gosh. Anime started with cartoons, really? Well, yeah, yeah. So all anime to me seems weird. I don't know which ones you're talking about, because I can point to plenty of normal animes that aren't weird at all. Just bizarre, creepy, and in general, I don't think that adults, whether it's anime or any other... And in general, I don't think that adults, whether it's anime or any other kind of cartoon, with rare exceptions, adults should not be watching cartoons in general, I would say. So just cut out the whole animation. To me, with these sort of statements right there, I just go, well, okay, then get rid of your technology. Get rid of your computer. What's stopping it? Like, why are you still using technology? Because I could make the argument that technology is inherently satanic. What about with the whole AI sort of thing? I personally will not be surprised that they're trying to use AI to insert demons into it. That's what demons do. They want to inhabit something. I will not at all be surprised that they're trying to find ways to now use technology as a way of inserting demons. I think it's very possible. In fact, I think that's something that in the end of times, that something will be more possible. But because you're making such a statement that that all of this is satanic, then why are you using technology to try to quote help out, spread the words, or like reach out to the next generation? Might as well just go back using carrier pigeons. All right, so they actually have the video. Let's actually watch it.
What's your opinion on anime? It's really popular amongst teens and young adults. I think it's all satanic. I have no argument for it. I have no argument for why it's satanic. It just seems that way to me. All anime to me seems weird, just like bizarre, creepy. And in general, I don't think that adults should be, whether it's anime or any other kind of cartoon, with rare exception, adults really should be watching cartoons in general, I would say.
Yeah, that's a serious answer right there. I don't believe for a second that he was joking. Walsh would later make it clear he was making an off the cuff joke about anime while satirizing Media Matters and the other outlets who ran his remarks as serious. Nah, no, I don't believe it. Don't believe it for a second. You do not. Matt Walsh does not give off the like those comedians that tell jokes very stale and whatnot, and the whole point is like to laugh at how like serious you are, sort of thing. I'm sure there's a better word for it, but he does not give off that vibe. I said it like in the beginning of the stream. He gives off the douchebag vibe. Hey Edwin, what a weirdo. I mean, again, I don't denounce Matt Walsh like his documentary, like "What Is a Woman." I think I watched it and I thought it was really good. I'm sorry, but the personality you've crafted with this, I'm always serious all the time, and I push back super hard, especially when it comes to the whole transgenderism thing. And then you're trying to say that that was just an off the cuff thing. I don't believe that for a second. But that is reality. Everyone has their own opinions on stuff like anime and so on. He noted these are all things that you might say if you believe that I was not being totally serious when I declared all animation made in Japan satanic. But again, I'm serious. If I was joking, I would laugh. Deadpan humor has never been my thing, as you well know. What? Then don't attempt at deadpan humor if you can't. If you're shit at it. Like, I could re-say what he just said and make it clear that I was joking. I actually, you know what? I think it's all satanic. I have no argument for why it's satanic, but it just seems that way. All anime to me seems weird, just bizarre, creepy in general. I don't think that adults, whether it's anime or any kind of cartoon, like, there you go. Hey Harvey, he's generally not 100% serious with most things he says. I think this one, I don't believe it personally. I think this one, um, again, and at the end of the day, this is just my opinions. Can never trust anyone who can't have any fun. Um, but this one, but then this, I don't get this. And maybe I'm missing something. These are all things that you might say if you believe that I was not being totally serious when I declared all animation made in Japan satanic. But again, I am serious. If I was joking, I would laugh. Deadpan humor has never been my thing, as you well know. But then don't try to do a deadpan humor sort remark. But then but then have a whole persona of being a deadpan type person, but then say I'm bad at deadpan type. If you're serious, then keep it. Don't take any facts. Then turns around, says I'm joking. No, I don't know. Again, Again, I'm a tad bit biased, mostly because just from the stuff that I've seen of Matt Walsh. Again, I think he personally gives off the douchebag persona, and I've been around a bunch of douchebag persona type people to not really hold, even if they are like do a good job giving information and resource. I don't hold that to as much value as something that I can relate to. That's just me. And I will admit that I do like the Daily Wire, but I also think that they've also become corporate in the sense of when it comes to pushing back against the culture war and in the entertainment area. I'm for that in your face stuff. Like if there's one thing that Matt does that I do kind of appreciate and do respect, it's him. It's the claiming of him. These people are mean to me, so I'm going to be mean back to them. I have no problem pushing back against that sort of stuff. But when you do that to when it's an area where the right is vastly losing, i.e., the entertainment industry, stupid shit like comments like this isn't going to help. Is not going to help at all. And in all honesty, it's the big. You got to learn just to laugh with it. You know, you got to learn to laugh at yourself too. You got to learn that if the other side's going to take it to the extreme, you can don't feel bad taking it to the extreme back, but laughing at it. You know, it's that sort of thing. But that's how I look at it, because you're just going to drive yourself crazy with this. You're gonna do the exact same thing that the other side's doing. You're gonna make a statement that's gonna be a huge umbrella statement, and then you're gonna be like, "Well, I'm to be more specific." It's like, well, then be specific in the beginning, sort of thing, you know. But then you'll drive yourself crazy because if you're gonna be specific, then it's gonna be like a long ass sort of thing. Sort of thing kind of happens like today on Twitter. You know, you make an offhand comment and then someone's like, it's this. And then it's like, dear Lord, am I writing a thesis like about why, like, hopefully with the inference that I was giving off, you could see where I was making the parallel. But that is why in the end, with all that said, anime is still canceled and cast back down into the fiery hell flames from whence it came. He deadpanned. Oh, is this the video?
For it. It is rather, as the kids.
Hey, Sim Inkslayer. What's
Yesterday on the show, I briefly mentioned a controversy that had, at the time, only recently started simmering. It was a controversy surrounding comments made by the humble host of this very podcast. And if you've been paying attention at all, you know that when my comments spark controversy, it's always because I have broached a very important subject and raised an issue of urgent national importance, such as, of course, the backlash over my advocacy for the rights of translucent mermaids. The topic this time around isn't quite that serious, but almost. So, as I detailed yesterday, during an all-access live chat this past Friday, I was asked to give my opinion on the subject of anime. And I spent about 35 seconds on the subject in which I stated that, from my vantage point, anime is satanic. Now, I acknowledge that I have no argument to support that view. I have no, perhaps, reason or justification for it. It is rather, as the kids say, a vibe. Anime has a satanic vibe. That's all. Have I ever seen anime?
Whoa. Who the hell says anime has a satanic vibe? I have never said that once. And I'll be the first to tell you, like, the people who will say that anime has a satanic vibe are indeed the Bible thumpers who, one, don't know the scripture, and two, will just regurgitate whatever extreme thumper that they learned it from and just spew it back out. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I've never... Like, there's satanic themed anime you could walk. I just got done reading Berserk. That has a shit ton of anime. It has a shit ton of demonic themed elements. In fact, it is demonic themed in the sense of the main character was offered as a sacrifice for another main character, and he lived through said horrors and is now fighting off against demonic elements. Oh my gosh. Ugh. How
Do
long
I
is
even
this
know
video?
exactly what anime
like 10
is?
minutes.
These questions aren't relevant. All that matters is that, as I said in response to a live question someone asked, anime is the work of the devil. That's my truth that I live in every day. Now,
That's your truth? Aren't you the type of people who say there's like the truth and the truth alone? I hope you address that. Or is this just one of your, I'm really bad at deadpanning, but right here I'm deadpanning, so it should you should realize that I'm joking.
there are some who might assume that this comment was simply a half-assed, off-the-cuff joke about cartoons, and that's all. Now, there are some who might observe that I've also argued for cyclists to be imprisoned. I've said that people who leave their shopping carts in the parking lot are morally equivalent to serial killers and should be executed on the spot. I've called for legislation outlawing small talk in elevators and the use of emojis by males over the age of 18. I even spent 3 months on this show attacking my own employer over his refusal to give me a giant stuffed walrus. So you might assume that my theories about anime's satanic origins should be taken in the same spirit as all those other sorts of comments. And you're right, because I'm totally serious about all of it. It's good then that social media took it with the seriousness that it was intended. I was one of the top trending subjects on Twitter nationwide yesterday, again.
Except right here, your entire tone of delivering that is completely different than what your quote off the cuff comment was. Like, I could normally tell, like, not normally tell, like, I could, like, between the two clips, huge different sort of presentation. I'm by no means a body reader or, you know, whatever those stupid people are that claim they know body language or something. Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
This time due to my controversial stance on anime. A great many accounts with anime avatars expressed their hurt and anger over my opinion, leading me to believe that maybe I was wrong about anime
Good thing
causing
I don't
demonic
have an
possession.
anime
Maybe it actually
or
just
avatar.
causes you to become an
I
extremely
just have
whiny dork.
a
That's another
banner
theory.
of Turles.
Meanwhile, the news media jumped into action.
shooting
My
Piccolo.
randomly muttered hot take about anime made it into the headlines of several major news outlets. Yahoo News reports, Daily Wire troll MAtt Walsh denounces anime as satanic, though he doesn't know why. Denounces. I denounced it. Mediaite says, plus if you use the code Walsh or know someone who I'm serious about, I was serious. I'm serious about everything. Deadpan members block.
I don't know. I'm not watching this whole thing. Anyway, so Hambly, that would be the quartering, took issue with Walsh's opinions writing on Twitter. The right's weird, obsession with disavowing video games, anime, and social media is why they will never appeal to most of the Gen Z. I actually do agree with the quartering on this. Even if Matt was indeed deadpanning comedy, making a joke by making it super serial about the whole thing, we're at a point where, like, you can't really... You're definitely not going to reach the Gen Z with that stuff. Now, I think there's a problem already with the Gen Z already being force-fed a bunch of bullshit and not understanding a whole lot of shit. But this sort of stuff doesn't help. And again, just based off of what I think of MAtt Walsh is and his persona, I don't see him as a deadpan humor type of person. I think his off-the-cuff remark was actually genuine, and then when he got a bunch of shit for it, he then made this video saying, well, I was just joking. That's what it's coming off for me, because like I said, like the minute he made those jokes about being super serious about, you know, the shopping cart and all that stuff, totally different presentation compared to just the off-the-cuff. Hate to say it, but a lot of off-the-cuff stuff is actually what you truly believe in. It's like the same thing when you drink and you say stuff and then say, oh, I'm sorry, I was drunk. And it's like, I mean, but chances are you're probably saying what you really thought. Anyway. Let's see. These are the things. Oh, wait a minute. I'm down here. The base is literally dying off, and most of the voices in the community are actively refusing recruits. He then made it clear he was discussing Walsh writing. Matt's not the only guy saying it. There was some other moron who tweeted anime is for pedophiles or something the other day. And there's TheQuartering's tweets. Walsh would respond to Hamley's criticism where he further detailed his position on video games. Oh, so this is transitioning over now to the video games. Walsh said there are a few points that matter, I think, but you won't be able to hear them if you insist absolutely that no statement, even vaguely critical of video games, can ever be uttered in your presence. If video games are a religion for you, then there's not much I can say to get through to you, but for everyone else, here's what it boils down to. Walsh continued, there's obviously nothing inherently wrong with video games as a medium. It's just another form of screen-based entertainment. Walsh went on to point out the two things we have to take into consideration with screen-based entertainment of all kinds are, one, the message embedded in the content, and two, the amount of time spent on the content. While explaining how powerful screens are at messaging to people and influencing them, Walsh points out, go to any school and you'll find a building full of kids whose values, beliefs, priorities, tastes have been nearly completely determined by the content they spend their days ingesting through the screen. Video games are not the only example of this, or even the most potent example, but they also obviously aren't an exception. Walsh isn't the only one to make this argument. The Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Chapek, Bob Iger have also made this argument in response to a Florida bill that is now law banning the teaching of gender identity and sexual orientation to students in kindergartens through third grade. Chapek informed Disney's employees they would work around the bill through the content they created. Screen-based than no technology for kids. Yeah, I mean, this is also what I'm getting at as well. That's kind of what I'm getting at as well, is don't make these super off the cuff extreme viewpoints, but then use that said viewpoints to like try to fight against the culture war, i.e. using technology. I mean, my whole thing is I can be just as extreme back sort of thing. I mean, this all to me honestly just sounds like he got called out about something and now he's trying to double back, saying, "Well, I understand." It's like, maybe. He said, because the struggle is much bigger than any one bill in any one state, I believe the best way for our company to bring about lasting changes is through the inspiring content we produce, the welcoming culture we create, and the diverse community organization we support. Now, I do agree with this. Definitely bring inspiring content. Like, definitely produce it, the welcoming culture and whatnot. I do agree with that. I just think that when you say retarded shit like this, one, it doesn't help. Two, I think the stuff that the Daily Wire, I guess, for all intents and purposes, like the movies and stuff like that, I personally don't think it's pushing back hard enough. Not at all. Not at all. Now, when the whole Daily Wire Steven Crowder thing happened, I guess for all intents and purposes, I sided more with the Crowder thing, because I personally like Crowder in the sense of him pushing back just as hard. I like that because I personally think we need it more. I think there's definitely a good mixture of doing it while catering to everybody and not coming off literally like a Matt Walsh satanic panic sort of thing. But of course now Crowder's under a bunch of other shit too. So again, but for me, this goes back to the whole like government-based sort of thing. They're all in the same fucking blood orgy together. They're all doing this shit. And I'm specifying with the government and stuff. Who knows? Maybe there's some alternative right orgy thing happening. Let's see. There's a reason content is at the top of this list. For nearly a century, our company's stories have opened minds. Well, wait a minute. Is this Bob saying this? This might be Bob saying this. I thought this was Walsh saying this. There's a reason. For nearly a century, our company's stories have opened minds, inspired dreams, shown the world both as it is and how we wish it could be. But I mean, if we're talking Disney here, you're now saying your versions are the superior version, and then you just look at remakes of The Little Mermaid and whatever other fucking garbage live action adaptations they done, and how they're literally changing everything. What was it? It might have actually been The Bounding into Comics, talking about how the director was like, well, we changed the lyrics to Kiss a Girl because it's, we had to, again, it's the stupid, we had to update it for modern audiences. It's like, dude, no one asked for it, you fucking asshole. No one asked about it. You're the ones paranoid about it. You're the ones just assuming this is what the people want. And by the people, just the four crazy retards out of the 100 group that you're looking at. We are telling important stories, raising voices, and believe changing hearts and minds, he added. He later noted, I firmly believe that our ability to tell such stories and have them received with open eyes, ears, and hearts would be diminished if our company were to become a political football in any debate. Okay, so I think this is the Disney CEO or whatever. Walt Disney CEO Bob Chapek and Bob Iger. Well, if it is them, if it's really them, your company would become a political football in any debate. That's a fucking lie. You already made it that way. So when asked about the Florida, okay, so now we're just getting into the Florida law. I don't really care about this. Walsh would go on to criticize certain violent video games that he believes are desensitizing people to violence. I think that if you already are desensitized to violence before you start playing video games, it doesn't matter. Doesn't name any games. You probably should name some games. But he points out that it's games whose violence is gratuitous and immoral and overly graphic. When it is violence for the sake of violence, when it's violence where the entertainment comes from simply watching someone suffer, even if in a fictional context. Now, this is the type of open or like a broad statement that it's not, Walsh, it's not good to say you can't fucking name a specific game and then go on to say like this. Like I can name, like, you want me to name a video game for you, Walsh, about violence for the sake of violence? What about fucking Manhunt? The original PS2 Manhunt. People were fucking freaking out about that game because of how graphic you would kill cops, if I'm not mistaken. I never played it. Probably should. Guess that makes me desensitized to violence. We had the same real violence in the past before video games. Well, it's the same thing as like, I love me a good Western. I love me a good Western. Last I checked, I don't recall going out and, challenging people to duels and all that stuff. But then again, I'm a bad example because I definitely would love to bring that sort of stuff back because I guarantee you a lot of the people who claim that they're so badass and cool like that, you challenge them to a duel and they'll run away. Especially the people who think they know about gun control, who's never shot a gun or handled one. Walsh notes this type of violence undermines human dignity and desensitizes the view, especially if the view is a child. Well, please tell me he mentioned something that it's also part of the parent's responsibility to know what games they're buying. And yes, you're gonna have the problem of your child going over to a friend's house and that parent has a different set of moralities of just, I need to shut this kid up. Here's this game, go play it, sort of thing. However, he notes that there are good forms of violence, what he calls heroic violence, that is done in the defense of the innocent or done by just superhero. What? Then why even make comments like this? I mean, this comment right here is the bad one. Like, if you're going to say something like this, name specific video games that cause about this. I'll tell you right now, because I've heard people say this and they'll talk about Grand Theft Auto. Grand Theft Auto, in all intents and purposes, is not only just about going around killing hookers. That's the go-to that some of the people with these extreme viewpoints say. And it wasn't about that. It gained a lot of popularity because people discovered you could do stuff like that. But there's more to it than just that. I mean, if you're talking about like torture simulators and stuff like that, then name a torture simulator. Then it's like, yeah, that's kind of barbaric, very barbaric, but that is part of history. You got your Vlad the Impaler sort of shit. Again, to me, it's just like, if you're gonna make these big statements, then like name some video games, and he's not doing a good job naming them. Walsh would then go on to elaborate on his second point, noting people, and especially kids, are spending an exorbitant amount of time playing video games. He claims they aren't having real childhood experiences. They aren't learning how to relate to each other and to the world. They're becoming fat and depressed. They can barely even like speak to each other. They can't look you in the eye. They don't stand up straight. I do agree that, yeah, I do think that children should be doing stuff outside of video games. But again, that's the parenting. And that's what, that's unfortunately what some of the technology has done. For people who want to get away from their kids because they're tired of parenting, is they just plop them down in front of the TV, turn on, what is it, baby Beethoven or whatever, and just like, oh, it's flashing colors, go ahead and, get lost in it. That's one thing. There's another thing where if your kid's being loud and obnoxious in like a restaurant, for example, they're not like, 3-year-olds or 3 months or whatever, but they're old enough to where they can be distracted. I think there is a problem of a parent just, here, take this tablet and shut up, sort of thing. As far as I'm concerned, that parent like needs to tell them like, hey, this may be something that you may not like. Deal with it. Again, I'm still waiting for the quote of him saying that part of it's the parent's responsibility too, because it is. It's possible to moderate your own usage, but we're talking about children here. It's possible to moderate your child's usage on the device. There you go. It's possible to moderate the kind of content they're exposed to on this device. There you go. But the vast majority of parents fail to impose that kind of moderation, Walsh notes. So which is it, I want to say, which is it, Walsh? Is it the parent's problem? Is it a parental issue? Is it an environmental issue? Or is it the video game issue? The video game in and of itself. Because just like life, it's a mixture of everything. But you seem to be hell-bent on the fact that it's definitely the video game. The content of the video game on top of the technology. what about I did a study on video. I remember doing an essay on video game, violence way back in high school. Obviously the data has changed. Well, not really, because I also found studies that showed that there was no correlation. In fact, I found studies that showed people who do play video games that like serve in the military are actually really good at controlling the electrical, the non-man piloted military equipment. What about surgeons? What about surgeons? That also showed up. Not hear you complaining about that. Walsh's commentary is not unheard of and is in line with the catechism of the Catholic Church that teaches. There it is, right there. I was wondering when this would show up. There it is. The Catholic Church. Hate to be the bearer of bad news bounding into comics and Matt. Catholicism is full of paganism, my friend. In fact, I don't like a lot of the established denominations out there. I think, in fact, Jesus specifically warned about this sort of stuff, about wolves coming into this area, and oh boy, Catholicism. That's a big one that a lot of paganism has in there. Oh man, not good. Not good. I'm one of what the scripture says. That's me. I was raised Presbyterian. If anything, I guess I could say I'm more non-denominational, but I would categorize myself as what I like to call a Christian contrarian Berean. Contrarian in the fact of whatever creeds and whatever teachings that the denomination of the word and stuff is teaching, better follow the scripture and what Jesus said. If it's not, that's a problem. Berean, as in Acts 17:11, like the Bereans did, where they searched the scriptures daily to make sure it is what it's true. That's what I do. I want to know what the Bible says, and if I need to know the Greek and Hebrew, go do it. If I need to understand the culture of that time, look at that too. And I'm also one to look at like the other available like books at the time, like the Book of Giants and stuff like that, and the Book of Enoch. Do I think they're God-breathed or biblically inspired by God? No. But it's good to understand what they were talking about. Although the Book of Giants, though, that came along with the Dead Sea Scrolls. So, not to mention Jude and Peter kind of go with that history sort of thing. But that's going down a whole nother rabbit hole. The means of social communication, especially the mass media, can give rise to a certain passivity among users, making them less than vigilant consumers of what is said or shown. Users should practice moderation and discipline in their approach to the mass media. They will want to form enlightenment and correct consciousness the more easily to resist unwholesome influences. Oh, now we're getting to Pope John Paul II also addressed the role of cinema in 1995. I don't care what Pope John Paul has to say. I care about what the Bible has to say and what Jesus has to say. And it also could be applied. It can also be applied to other mediums such as video games. It says, as happens with all the media of social communications, the cinema, as well as having the power and the great merit of contributing to the culture and human growth of the individual, can oppress freedom, particularly in the most weak, when it distorts the truth and when it presents itself as the mirror of negative types of behavior, using scenes of violence and sex offense to human dignity, intending to excite violent emotions to stimulate the attention of the viewer. Oh, gosh. The attitudes of those who irresponsibly bring about degrading, imitative behavior whose harmful effects can be read about each day in the pages of the newspaper cannot be defined as free artistic expression. This gospel reminds us only in the truth are we made free. Oof, 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 oof. Oh, with the amount of bullshit that you've added, oh man, you got some huge balls to say something like that with the amount of shit you tacked onto the Bible. This commentary from Walsh that is clearly aligned with Christian teachings. I'm gonna tell you, man. The Mormons had Christian teachings added into it. They also added a lot of other stuff that isn't biblically supported. Same with Jehovah's Witnesses. Don't say Christian teaching and then think of Catholicism. Hambly wrote, wild take, Matt. I am not conservative. Okay, so now we're finally, this is what okay, yeah, so this is what, yeah, there's the comment on that. And this is kind of where I kind of had a suspicion of why Bounding into Comics is kind of being kind of pro Walsh in this, as they're both Catholic belief. I am not conservative, nor have I ever claimed to be recruiting for them. Yeah, what was that about? Walsh said something about recruiting something. A very poor choice of words. I'm not conservative, nor have I ever claimed to be recruiting for them. Comparing our numbers is weird. Yeah, that is kind of weird. You were not mentioned in this tweet. It was about the right. That's why I didn't say Matt Walsh. Seems kind of sensitive and pointless in fighting. That I do agree. I do agree. The infighting bullshit has got to stop. And it's mostly, I think it's a lot of it is happening because people are doing things that they say online and in presence and trying to keep their skeletons in the closet. Of course, everyone is broken on the inside. I'll be the first to tell you that I am by no means a perfect man. As shown above, Hambly did indeed refer to Walsh in a subsequent tweet. In a subsequent tweet? What about the original tweet? If he didn't what about the original tweet? If he didn't mention Matt in the original tweet, then Matt responded, and then Jeremy responded to Matt, and then specifically pointed out as Matt. Sounds like Matt's the one that started it. Nevertheless, he went on, I am not interested in finding, but I am allowed to respond to this nonsense. Best of luck, Matt. Daily Wire's doing great things. Nobody's questioning that. Yeah, I do agree. They do some good stuff. But this feels like a stretch. Yeah, where's the right's weird. Yeah, what Bounding into Comics, I don't know what you're talking about. As shown above, Hambly did indeed refer to Walsh in a subsequent tweet. Where? What, this? Wild take, Matt? His response to when Matt mentioned something? Yeah, this is... Yeah. Show me the entire... We're going to pull what the left does, specifically like when the whole Vic Mignogna situation where Ron thought he was fucking clever because I'm like, I don't know who these tweets are in context to. I'm gonna pull that because I was pissed about that with Ty. Not gonna lie, that fucking thick binder that Ty had, he should have had the fucking primordial soup origin of the tweet all the way down to when Ron made that comment, because I knew they were gonna pull that bullshit. And I'm saying the same thing right fucking here. I want to see the full fucking thread. Because if I'm that invested into it, I will look into it. That's the thing. So Hambly would double down on his lie. Ooh. Bounding into Comics. Declaring that he's lying. Okay. Even when confronted by Walsh, who tweeted, "Come on, man, stand by your words." You tweeted that at the exact moment that people were digging up old tweets of mine about video games. Everyone knows who you were talking about. Oh, I remember this. I actually made a comment to Matt about this on Twitter. I mean, not that it means anything. I requoted the gift of Dennis from It's Always Sunny. It's about the implication. I mean, Matt, if you're trying to be technical about the whole situation of how Jeremy responded to you, then that original tweet that Jeremy posted should have mentioned your name, and it doesn't. It's about the implications. Oh man, yeah, this is where the nitpicking comes into play. Emily wrote, "Matt, you're wrong and still deflecting. Why are you so sensitive?" Okay, so now we're just getting into bouncing back and forth. But yeah, if Matt is declaring the nitpick, like whoever's laying out the nitpick foundation, like, like Bounding into Comics is saying of like, oh, Jeremy specifically called out for Matt and the original tweet does not have Matt involved, then you're in the gray area. Okay, Hamley, yeah, you mentioned me by name. I know your whole gig is to start drama with people bigger platforms. Yeah, I've heard that with TheQuartering. Again, I tried watching some of his stuff. I'm indifferent about it. Some of the stuff I agree with what he says, other stuff I don't. But I really think you should consider generating content another way, or at least if you're going to stay on this strategy, stop with the passive-aggressive stuff. It's lame. He should do what I do and jump on like everybody else that's talking about the drama. Although I'm probably late and behind. I'm late and gay about the whole thing because unfortunately I was not near a computer to immediately make a comment about while all this was happening. I guess that makes me, what is it, a drama starter too? A drama grifter? Mine's more on the fact of like, this is what I've been saying in the beginning with stupid shit like this happening. The writer not doing a good job fighting against the culture war when it comes to entertainment, especially when retarded shit like this. What's up, Brian? Jeremy lost me when he suggested we put active military in K-12 schools. Like for like school shootings or something? Military, like I'll go off base of what you said, Brian. But if he's talking about like actual military people, like in schools, no, the government stays the fuck out of shit. I have no problem with like a security guard somewhere, like outside of school or something. Or I'll even be the one to say that that teachers should learn how to defend themselves. I mean, fucking air stewardess now are taught how to self-defend and to stop, any sort of hijacking and stuff. What's the difference? But I'm also of the one of like, yeah, like the government should stay out of shit as much as possible. See, that's where we come in. Anyway. All right, now we're just into the fighting and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, I've seen this. He sent a DM. We'll continue to attack Walsh by lying about his position on video games. Ambly tweeted, "Now it all makes sense. Matt is literally a violent video game. Cause real world violence." Yeah, I've seen this one too. Holy crap, this is a long ass article. I didn't know that. My whole thing is, to summarize it, if you're not fucking retarded, you're not going to get influenced by doing violent things in video games. And when it comes to your children or your younger audience, that's responsibility on the parents. And if your child's going over to another person's house and that person's parents gives them a violent video game and you want your kid to avoid that, you should know, the parents should know about that. It would also point to a desensitization. A person should be horrified by brutality and violence. I mean, I'm not, because that's just life. It's existed after the fall. So I don't. Not to mention the Bible is like a super bloody book. And there are times when God was fine with it. I think of Abram, when the king like took a bunch of property, including Lot, like one of Abram's relatives. And so Abram took his pretty much his trained soldiers. I'm saying that loosely, but they were trained to combat, and just slaughtered everyone. God didn't have a problem with that. Although Abram did like also take a bunch of the loot and stuff, but he gave that away. It's clear that a lot of kids today, a lot of people generally have a certain numbness, a certain emptiness inside of them. They do not recoil at evil. Wait, who's saying this? Is Matt saying this? Because wasn't Matt literally like 2 seconds ago talking about how I lost my train of thought. Never mind. I'm retarded. Clearly still triggered by Walsh. TheQuartering took issue with another of his articles regarding yoga, an opinion which is also in line with Christian teaching. Boycott yoga Christians, lest you stretch and bend yourself into eternity of hell. Well, yoga is, I mean, I do agree with Matt on this. Yoga does come from, a Hindu religion and stuff, and I have looked into this, and there is definitely paganism inside of it. Do I think can it affect a Christian? No, because you're due diligent and keeping up with the word and stuff like that. I mean, this is a very slippery slope. Sorry, I had to step away. He suggested active military as part of school security. Military, no. I answered this. Military, no. I don't think he has ever contemplated what using the military on its own citizen leads to. Yeah. Military, no. A security guard, yeah. Teachers learning how to defend themselves in case a school shooting does happen. I am one to agree with that. But I understand people get scared because it's like, what happens if the teacher goes crazy? It's like, well, then what do we do? I mean, well, I know the answer. The problem is take your kids out of public school, because that's a big problem as well. That's my answer. Homeschool that shit. All right, but the boycott yoga Christian lest you stretch. I mean, I haven't read this article. But this is where I do disagree with Jeremy, in the sense of, if we are talking about like where yoga came from, a lot of it does have pagan rituals into it, and a lot of it does lead you into opening your mind's eye, which can connect you to demonic influences. Like I've I haven't done research, but I've looked into it and stuff like that, and this is just my own conclusion that I've come to. This I do agree with. Very dangerous, and again, to me, it comes down to, like, I think there's good in everything. Obviously before the fall, and then of course the fall happened, and then a lot of it becomes corrupted. Definitely a lot of knowledge was shared by fallen angels, and you got your Nephilim and all that stuff too. And I think a lot of stuff does have demonic influences into it. But I think if your heart is set on the Lord and whatnot, you'll be fine. But, of course, there's also certain stuff to where, like, for example, God tells you not to try to contact the dead. He specifically tells you not to do that. I think you shouldn't. I do think Ouija boards do connect to, like, the other side. And you don't want to believe in that shit. Or if you get contact with anyone. Like, be very careful. Very, very careful. But yeah, this whole thing, this whole sort of thing, this is where, when you get into religion, this falls into the extremity of certain stuff. That to where it's either you follow the world's way or you follow the Lord's way. And I'm a believer, so I follow the Lord's way. We are in a gray world where there is a slippery slope, and do your best to follow what the Bible says and what the scriptures say. But I also think that when it comes to the people who are like, don't glorify violence and all that stuff, it's like, well, what environment was happening at the time? You had like I said, you had your Greek, like you got your Roman, Greek era, like with Nero, where literally everyone was drunk in the streets. There's literal tiles of pictures of you being scrawled into stone that led you towards broth houses and stuff. Because back then, a lot of Romans or Greek, I can't remember specifically. It's one of the two, but a lot of them would have a wife just to pass their inheritance down, and then a lot would have mistresses, and that's where they would go, and they would get drunk on the daily, just have sex all the time, and then go to the Colosseum or like a gymnasium, literally where the word gymnasium comes from, and then just watch people kill each other and stuff like that. That was of the norm. Now I think that that's one thing, and now you're in a slippery slope between the fictional world and that stuff. But yeah. Anyway, what else are we getting into? Got videos. Indeed, Hamley's tweets seemingly don't even care about Walsh's actual arguments about video games. In fact, his last criticism is not even about video games at all, but it's about the Christian warning of practicing yoga, a pagan ritual. That appears to be where Hamley's true ire with Walsh is Christianity. Hey, Figs, what's up? Again, this is just me. I take issue with this. I believe Walsh is a Catholic, a practicing Catholic. And I know there can be Catholic, like Christian Catholics. Yeah. Catholicism, like I said, there's a lot of paganism in Catholicism. Sorry. Oh my God. You will look way older from this angle. Oh yeah, I shaved my beard, which is weird because shaving your beard would mean that you'd look younger. But I take issue with this too, because when I think of Christianity, I don't think of Catholics. Sorry. Maybe back in the day that was the case, but when you begin to kind of look into stuff, again, that's why I kind of consider, I'll say Christianity, but even then I don't like saying that. I like just saying what the scripture says and what Jesus said, because I I'm a contrarian to the extent of I have a problem of what a lot of established denominations practice. And if you really look into it, a lot of it is not scripturally based or what Jesus said. Oh, that was the end of the article. What do you make of Hambly getting triggered about MAtt Walsh's and his opinions on video game? I think both sides had good talking points. I side with what I think. That's my opinion. That's what I think. A cop-out answer, but I'm a cop-out man. I don't know what that means, but whatever. Man, that was a long article, yeah. I did, let's see, where are we at? I did bring up as well Matt's take on video games and stuff. Fortunately, when a quote Christian is portrayed in media, it is usually Catholic. Yeah, that's unfortunate. It is unfortunate, and that's what I called about too. Like, and that's the thing, is you may be scripturally founded or Christian founded in the sense of following what the Bible has to say, the teachings of Jesus and whatnot, but a lot of stuff can go terribly, terribly wrong and veer off. Catholic, for sure. Like I mentioned, Jehovah's Witnesses, another one. Mormonism, another one. A lot of the stuff that preaches about the, the hellstone and brimstone and hellfire. Dear Lord, I'm reversing a bunch of shit. That's why I kind of consider myself non-denominational. I just want to know what the scripture said and what Jesus said. And if I have to understand the Greek, the Aramaic, or the Hebrew, how the culture was at that time, and even dabble in certain books that will at least explain kind of the mindset of what is happening in that day, i.e. kind of like, the book of the Giants or like the book of Enoch, or understanding people's different culture, I will. And again, I'm not saying that those, like, the books that didn't make it in the Bible and that sort of stuff, I'm not saying that those are God-breathed or God-inspired. But if it's necessary to use those to kind of get a better understanding of what, like, at that time, like what Peter or even Jude were talking about, then yeah. Like, for example, Peter and Jude, they're talking about the angels in Tartarus. Well, Peter specifically talked about it, and Jude also talked about the whole Genesis 6 thing. Based on what the scripture says, it's not Seth and Cainite. It's not about them intermingling. It's something way different. Any case. How long are these? Because I did find the articles that Walsh did pull up or talk about. Let's see. One is from 2019. The ones that the Bounding into Comics was talking about was, I think, the 2018 one. I do have that one, so we can take a look at that. By the way, if people are enjoying this, feel free to like and subscribe and smash the notifications to know when I go live. I'm on YouTube and Rumble. I do a lot of game streaming as well. This one I wanted to talk about because, again, for me, out of this whole situation is when you have this sort of infighting happening, it does not help with the culture war of reaching out to other people to showcase that we can be entertained for entertainment's sake and not have an ideology constantly fisted in our butthole when we watch something. That's my whole thing on the matter. And this isn't helping. But again, this is, it goes to show that, everything, there's infighting and everything. All right, so here's the opinion piece. So it is an opinion, but from my viewing, Walsh was presenting it as some good evidence. So March 9th, 2018. So stop pretending violent video games are harmless just because you like playing them. President Trump held a meeting on Thursday to discuss violence in video games. It's been said that he, quote, blames mass shooting on video games. I disagree with that. I was going to say I do disagree with that, but Trump wasn't disagreeing with it, so I worded that wrong. I disagree. Oh, this was another thing I was kind of a random thought that I was thinking of when I was kind of reading on Walsh's take on like, oh, people spend too much time in video games and stuff. You want to know who spends too much time on video games? The video game developers and stuff like that. Can anyone name me a mass shooter who is a video game developer? I mean, he would be most exposed to all this violence and stuff, right? Has there been like a mass shooter that's been a video game developer? Methinks no. In fact, well, you get my point. Let's see, that he blames mass shooting on video games, but that's not actually his position. That's not anyone's position. Nobody thinks that a child who plays a violent game will automatically go out and kill real people. Nobody thinks that video games are the only factor contributing to the problem. The pro-video game people prefer to rail against any argument nobody is making because they cannot respond to the extreme logically and irrefutable arguments people are making. What? Let me read this again, because I might be retarded. President Trump held a meeting on Thursday to discuss violence in video games. It's been said that he, quote, it's been said that he, quote, blames mass shooting on video games, but that's not actually his position. Okay. All right. That's not anyone's position. Nobody thinks that a child who plays a violent game will automatically go out and kill real people. Nobody thinks that video games are the only factor contributing to the problem. Okay, I do agree with that. It's a hodgepodge. The pro-video game people prefer to rail against an argument nobody is making because they cannot respond to the extremely logical and irrefutable argument people are making. Here's what President Trump said. We have to look at the internet because a lot of bad things are happening to young kids and young minds, and their minds are being formed, and also video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts. Shaping young people's thoughts, forming their minds. Yes, of course, it has that effect. Or shaping their minds. Yes, of course, it has that effect. Okay. Of course, a child is influenced by the images and ideas and sounds and messages that bombard his brain. Yes. Of course, it isn't healthy for a child or anyone else to spend hours a day playing any sort of video game, least of all violent video games. Brian says, if politics is downstream from culture, people like Walsh shouldn't dismiss the culture like gaming and should work to influence it. Overall, I like Walsh, but his dismissive attitude loses people. Yeah. I've said it before. Walsh has a douchebag persona going about him, and it makes it very hard to want to listen to what he has to say. Like I said, I watched his documentary, What is a Woman? I thought it was really good. But this is... Man, I'll just continue. You can cite the studies proving that violent video games don't contribute to violence in kids. I can cite the studies proving they do. Okay. Okay, so here's a link to all this. I mean, I'm not going to read that. I do find it interesting, however, that you're claiming you can cite the studies proving that violent video games don't contribute to kids. I can cite studies proving they do. How come you don't cite the ones that disprove it? I'm just curious. You would think that you would have both, so then people can make the conclusion, but maybe I'm grasping at straws. And we can go round and round and round, throwing studies at each other till it finally dawns on us that maybe some things can't really be proven or disproved with a study. Then why are you making comments about anime? All of anime is satanic, or I feel like I'm repeating myself, but whatever. Maybe some things are far too complex and buried far too deep in the human mind to be quantified and categorized by a guy in a lab coat with a clipboard. Some mass shooters weren't video game fans. Some were. The Sandy Hook school shooter was obsessed with video games. He made 83,000 online, quote, kills before he went out and killed 20 children. Are you going to tell me that you're positive his hours upon hours, open hours spent stewing in virtual violence has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with his murder spree? And how are you going to prove that? With a study? Survey of some other parents and kids will tell me what was going on in the dark recess of the Sandy Hook school shooter's mind. Or mind? Question mark? Sorry, that was a question, an open-ended question. Perhaps we should just try to apply some common sense to the issue. Here's what common sense tells me. A moderate video game habit, not involving graphic and violent games, will not harm children. Why are you going out of the way to specifically target to say this? Because there's been plenty of people who have played graphic and violent video games. And, I don't have the need to go out and harm children. As of 2014, the number is surely higher now. The average American over the age of 13 played video games for about an hour a day. Okay. I want to know what video games they're playing. Okay, I just pulled up the link that he posted. And nothing talking about the genre of games people are playing. Interesting. An hour a day for a child is probably already too much. No matter what type of game. What? I wonder if he's going to comment about the recent study. Well, maybe it's not, because I'm saying it's a recent study. But there was a study that pointed out that when the leftists said that video games make people misogynistic, and the study actually showed the complete opposite. I wonder if he's going to comment on that. I have a feeling no. But that's fine. But again, that was a more recent study. If that were his only screen time, or wait a minute, an hour a day for a child is probably too much, no matter what type of game. Disagree. I disagree with that. Huge difference. There's educational video game. I used to play Where in the USA is Carmen Sandiego. Played it a whole lot. Actually, rather enjoyed it. Actually learned stuff. In fact, the Carmen Sandiego games are well known for being really good educational games. No matter what type of game, what that were is only screen time, it might be fine, but it's not. He's also on his computer, on his phone, watching TV. Almost half of all parents report that the TV is, quote, always on. Well, then that's more of a parenting issue than the TV issue. Did the TV just magically turned on? No. Figs, parents' fault. Yep. That's not good. Kids need to read books. I agree. They need to play outside. I agree. They need to have conversation with their parents. I agree. They need to develop interest in hobbies and skills that don't involve staring into a glow box. I agree. But it's not the technology's fault that it just exists. Okay? I don't get this. He bounces back and forth to so many different stuff. but then goes on say, well, it's a gray area. Why not just say it's a gray area to begin with and just leave it at that? If the average time spent on video games is about an hour a day, that means a significant amount of people spend significantly more time playing them. I personally know of some kids who play video games for 2 or 3 hours a day, maybe more, no matter if the games are violent or not. That's not healthy. Then why are you making extreme statements that's saying it's one way, but then say, oh, it's in the end, it's just a gray matter, or I'm kidding, but then go back and forth. I don't see. This is what this whole umbrella thing, again, this is what I'm talking about. This whole umbrella thing. Like, if you want me to be extreme, I can fucking pick a side. Like, I will pick a side for you. And mine's going to be more based on my faith and everything. And it's probably going to piss off a lot of people, but I'm also just have the common knowledge to realize that we live in a gray world. And at the end of the day, my goal is to read the scripture, get closer to God. If people want to know about it, I'll try to share it with them, and to do stuff like this. That's my goal. Main problem is parent controls their kids and control what they play. Well, that's what I was kind of getting at earlier. Like the parents you see that go into like the restaurant, their kid starts to get rowdy, so to shut them up, they put a tablet in front of their face. I do agree that you need to teach your kids of like, hey, you're not always going to get that tablet, bucko. You may hate being here, but deal with it, fucker. Well, not like that, but you get what I'm saying. So no matter if the games are violent or not, that's not healthy. I don't care what your study says or say. So I'm inserting words or a letter to the end of said word. As a human being with a brain, I am able to determine that a child should not spend every moment of his free time escaping into virtual reality. Well, okay then. That's a rather extreme statement, Matt. If that's the case, then why are you using technology to try to reach the future generation? Why are you using a computer, and email, and video editing to share this stuff? Isn't literally reading your art? I'm literally reading your article on a computer, and escaping into a virtual reality. See, this is the bullshit I hate right here. I don't know why I'm highlighting this. I'm just saying in general. This is the garbage I hate. Like, I don't like... I understand at some point you can't be a fence sitter. You're going to have to give your opinion on this, but... Loki, exactly. Why use technology? Good point, Greg. Yeah, well, this goes back to what I said in the beginning. I think technology can be good for good and evil, or good and bad. But if you're gonna try to make a rather extreme side of case on things, then to me, it's just stick with the whole extremity of it, no matter how bad it may make you look, But whatever. If I want to win the study for study competition, I'd point to the multiple studies showing a link between depression and video game usage. Interesting. I actually suffer from depression, and I actually feel a lot better when I do play video games. Mostly because when I'm depressed about is something that's happening in my life, and I try to turn to the scripture, but at times I just want to get away from everything, and I'll go to a video game. But I won't point to them. Well, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. He's talking about depression in video games. But then early on in the thing, he talks about how it's pointless to be throwing studies around because it's just an ongoing thing. So which is it? Do you want to go study for study, or we can all find studies that can benefit our viewpoints? Person needs sunlight, human interaction, human experience, fresh air. It is depressing to live a life deprived of those things. Can we find some sort of link between the isolation caused by a video game obsession? I wouldn't really call it an obsession. The depression caused by the isolation and violence. Oh, wait, I've got a solution. The solution is to be like Dexter and just take your rage out on bad people. I'm just kidding, of course. I'm just fucking around, you know? At least we can say this about a boy who becomes violent after years of isolation and reality. Where's the study on that one? Sure didn't help, or do I need a scientist to tell me that? Well, I mean, you're the one making these statements, Matt. Which is it? Do I need a scientist to help me that? If I wanted to win the study for a study competition, I'd point to the multiple studies showing of a link between depression and video game usage. What about violent video games? Well, there's no reason to focus this part of the conversation only on kids. It's not good or healthy for anyone to play graphic, disturbing, gory, violent video games. Certainly, it won't make you a better person. I would argue that it would also not make you a bad person. And it's very hard to imagine that the effect is neutral. Then why are you saying, like, look, we can use, it's an... Am I the only one, like, kind of seeing inconsistency here? Like, I'm seeing, like, extreme statements and then, well, yeah, I understand it's a gray area, but then you get stuff like this. Nothing is really neutral for human beings. Everything we do either makes us better or worse. Hours a day pretending to kill people in virtual reality must logically fall into the worst category. Matt, do you want me to point out all the times in the Bible where genocide was actually justified by God? I've my friend Eric doing an excellent study on that. Did that make the people worse? David was the worst person in the Bible. He did everything imaginable. Adultery, murder, lust, all that stuff. And yet God declared he was a man after his own heart. This is where some video game apologists devolve into incoherency. Video games are a sacred cow because people are desperate to justify the last 8,000 hours of their lives that they wasted on them. Okay, so this is where the quote that was taken and posted up on Twitter. Video games are a sacred cow because people are desperate to justify the last 8,000. And yet you couldn't name in the beginning why you felt that anime was satanic. You just assumed. So they'll often pretend there's nothing toxic about violent games at all. They'll just say something silly like, "If it's just pretend. I'm just shooting at pixels. It's not turning me into the serial killer." I mean, but I could just say there's literally people who have played video games their entire life because they've been video game developers and they haven't killed one single person. Brian, got to head out. I'll catch the rest later. Good topic. Well, thanks. Yeah. I'm getting hungry personally. But we'll kind of wrap up the show here. We're getting up. We have like 20 minutes before like the 2 hour mark. That's usually what I go. We all know it's pretend. We all know The images are digital. We know you are not a serial killer, but the fact remains that you still enjoy pretending to kill people. Okay, fucker. Now you're taking the holier than thou sort of attitude sort of thing. Even though you literally, like, I don't know if it was in the one, but in the Bounding in the Comics one, didn't you literally declare that there is justified killing? And now you're saying fucking stupid shit like this? Enjoying pretending to kill people. What if you killed someone that was a endangerment to society, that was declared, that got the death penalty, was 100%, all the evidence did point to him? You're telling me you wouldn't be happy that that sort of evil was erased from the community? Hate to say it. Well, not hate to say it. I have no problem saying it. I'd be fucking happy. You still enjoy pretending to keep, like, you've never, ever, ever fucking had a thought about being happy that that evil was wiped off the face of the earth. And that evil can come into a form of a person. In fact, that's what's going to happen in the end times. The fucking Antichrist. Oh my gosh. Probably will never kill a single person in real life, but it's still not good. It's still unhealthy. It's still pretty disturbing that you find so much joy in simulated death and destruction. I find it pretty disturbing that you can't name a reason why you think anime is satanic. You just feel it's that way. Say the same thing about people who love bleak, graphic, torture porn movies. A healthy, well-adjusted, morally aware person would find no enjoyment whatsoever in these films. I don't watch, I don't watch those films. Like, if you're talking, like Hostel or something, where it's like straight up torture stuff, I don't like watching that stuff. But I also will jump for joy, like, if, like, what's his name? Gary, Figs, I hate the Antichrist. Like, what's his name? Gary Plusey? Not Busey. The guy who, like, shot the guy who, like, molested his kid. I'm not weeping for that guy. You didn't see tears running down my face when he got shot in the head. And again, there's been plenty of times, by the way, when God was perfectly fine in the Bible to actually commit the genocide of certain tribes. I'm very uncomfortable, I know, but that's where you got to look deep into what it's talking about. Not because he thinks they're real, but simply because he has no interest in entering a fantasy world filled with blood and death. When I was a teenager, I went, regrettably, to see the movie. Yeah, Hostel. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I'll spare you the most of the details, but suffice it to say that the whole point of that movie, the whole attraction, is to watch young people get tortured and brutalized and hacked into pieces. Why'd you go see it then? Hated the movie and I wish I'd never seen it, but yet you did. Yet you did, my friend. My friend loved it. He should not have loved it. There's nothing to love. He has not since turned into a serial killer. Then why are you bitching about it? Because there's plenty of other people who do the same thing, as far as I know. But still, it's not good for a human being to take delight in such ugliness. There's one of the major... See... Of course, there's going to be people out there that kind of do have that sort of, like, affection or, like, a weird connection to that sort of thing. But again, this is what I don't get what he's trying to get at. Your fear of people enjoying something that you might deem that people shouldn't partake but don't have any consequences to it, that's your problem. He's just, what am I trying to say? Look, if you're afraid that there's a bunch of people out there that, even though they're playing a violent thing and They may enjoy the killing of non-fictional people, but yet come out completely normal because in the end they know it's your problem. All I can say,
That's your problem, fuckface.
I just read oh, what's up, Chaos? I just read these and I'm already pissed as hell. It's one thing to be scared about it too, but sounds to me like Matt doesn't have a whole lot of faith in people because he thinks people will just turn into ugly, disgusting humans and whatnot. But then again, in one of the things I just read, he's all for justice violence or whatever. So to me, when you say, look, I'm all for like executing like a mass serial killer because he's going to do it again. And all the evidence points to him being guilty. But yet getting this upset over someone wasting their way playing video games like he says and not thinking twice about killing something that's not real and then say you should feel bad about that doesn't help your point. Amazing. But we should not indulge. Okay. That's one of the major effects the violent video games and movies certainly do have on a person. They feel the twisted part of his brain that delights in ugliness. I'll be the one to tell you right now, if a terrible, evil person gets executed and you delight in the fact of that evil being wiped off the face of the earth, that's not ugliness, man. That is not fucking ugliness, dude. Not to mention the Bible says, thou shalt not murder. Murder and killing are two different things. There's, again, so much killing in the Bible. Some of it obviously pointed off as being sin, and other times God was perfectly fine with it. Ugh. What's up, Rainbow Boomax? Almost like he has too much pride in himself. That's another thing too. Like, try not to have pride. Like, again, like I said, Jeremy had good points. I'll say Matt has good points. But with all this, and this is getting back into the whole, like, I was kidding with the whole all anime satanic and the video games and stuff like that. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, just reading what you've written, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I will acknowledge that you've had, like, provided excellent, like, obviously excellent research and information and stuff that can help people determine what they want to believe in the sense of, like, what, studies and stuff. Not going to deny that as well, but like I said in the beginning, Matt always to me gave off a douchebag vibe, like that douchebag vibe in high school. And these articles aren't helping, for me at least. But then again, I could just as very much well be giving off douchebag vibes too. So what do I know? I want to, but it's hesitancy or so what prevents me and what? Not to mention, pride isn't exactly... God hates pride. Pride's literally what caused, in a sense, the fall. Well, not in a sense. It did cause the fall. Satan became prideful. He fell. He influenced Eve and Adam to be prideful and to being like God. So, God... pretty confident in saying God hates pride. Just an FYI. Chaos Smash says, it's people like him who turn me off to Christianity. I want to, but it's hesitancy or what prevent you. Well, I'll be the first to tell you that, and this is something that I disagree with Bounding into Comics, and I kind of saw this happening. Bounding into Comics and Matt, they're both Catholic, and I'm going to be and again, I've said this before in the stream, I'll say it again. Catholicism is not the perfect example of what being a Christian is. In fact, there's a shit ton of paganism in it, but so are many other stuff as well. That's why you study the Word and you see what the Bible actually has to say. I just don't believe that what Matt is saying is that, like, the one thing I guess I do really, this. Suffice it, it's the whole point of is him being afraid of people who get enjoyment just by watching a torture snuff film. Yes, there are people out there who do enjoy that sort of stuff and may actually mentally have a problem with it. They do exist. Not everyone thinks that way, man. People can just chalk it off at the end and be like, dude, that was a crazy movie. And then go about their day like nothing happened. At least you're a lovable douchebag that we love to kick you around. Look, I am just but a salty pup, man. I am a salty pup that just wants to have some good entertainment and gets annoyed when people on both sides say stuff like this. The Bible has been rewritten multiple times in history, so read it with a grain of salt, but provides some good lessons. Well, then that's where I disagree with you. I will agree in the sense it's been rewritten in the sense of translation, and there is actually translation problems to that. But when it comes to being God breathed, I believe it's the truth. So desensitization. I think people can be desensitized in many forms, not just from video games and anime and all that stuff. Persons should be horrified by brutality and violence. We should be sickened by this. You literally just said in a thing, unless that was another joke too, that you agree with justice violence. Probably, capital punishment or something? Where did he say that? I'm going to find that fucker. I want to find out exactly. I know I read that earlier, and unless I read it wrong, maybe. Use Control F, yeah. Justice. Or did I close it? No, I don't think so. Oh, here we go. Thank you. The heroic justice. Yeah, I'll bring this back up. Can I make another? Ah, fuck. Sorry. Boomer. Here you go. So he's talking about Walsh would go on to criticize certain violent video games that he believes are desensitizing people to violence. He doesn't name any games, but another thing I said, you should name games if you're going to be making statements like that. I already named some, Manhunt, for example. But he points out that it's games whose violence is gratuitous, immoral, and overly graphic. When it is violence for the sake of violence, when it's violence where the entertainment comes from simply watching someone suffer. And then you go right here. notes this type of violence undermines human dignity and desensitization, or I can't even talk. You know that fucking word. I'm not going to stumble over it. The view especially of this. However, he notes that there are good forms of violence, what he calls heroic violence, that is done in the defense of the innocent or done by just superheroes. Well, now we're getting to what's a just superhero? I can make the argument that the Punisher is a just superhero. Punisher is one of my favorite characters. Before they made them all gay with the skulls and then turning guns into swords. Or the Boondock Saints. I even have a poster right up there. Don't be making statements like this and then switch over to, any sort of violence you should be horrified. Yeah, a person should be horrified by brutality and violence. We should be sickened by it. Don't say this and then go say heroic justice is okay. Oh, that was the end of that was the one article that he pointed out, or that was being all the hubbub. I don't really want to read it anymore because I'm tired. We'll end off with something that I thought was funny with bounding into comics was Lofty. Our lovable Lofty, bounding into comics, apparently got really, really butthurt. Here's bounding into comics writer telling me to repent for my sins because I innocuously made fun of their shitty MAtt Walsh article spurging out over violent video games and demonic anime. How many irrelevant quotes by Catholic bishops and exorcists do you squeeze into your video game article this time? That is funny because they didn't mention a pope. And then apparently this guy said, repent, Lofty. For what? Mocking bishops and exorcists. Oh, dude. Yeah, that's a big problem in my book. I don't care what bishops or exorcists say. I care about what the Lord says. You're welcome. That'll be $50. Put it on my tab that will never get paid. That's funny. It really shows how this is not a culture war, but a spiritual war when you have such blatant anti-Christianity. Just shows how much harder we have to work. Again, I'll be the first to tell you that even though a lot of Christianity is inside of the denomination of Catholicism, there's a lot of other stuff that is blatantly not in the Bible, that is not scripturally based, such as bishops and exorcists. Oh, man. Never repent to these people. That sounds like the woke left. Yeah. And again, there's a lot of articles I liked into bounding into comics. There's a lot of articles by bounding into comics that I do agree with. Disagree. Very bad take, in my personal opinion, on this. This is Lofty, of all people, too. Woo! We all know how much Lofty loves that stuff. Or how much love Lofty gets from certain people. So there you go. That is my thoughts on this whole situation. Ultimately, in the end, for me, it boils down to the stupid infighting and stuff. Yeah, I do not agree with MAtt Walsh's take on this. It's not helping fighting the culture war when it comes into the entertainment industry. Especially when you have to me, contradicting things by saying heroic justice, violence is fine, but then say you should be sickened by any sorts of violence, but then it's a gray, slippery slope. But then I could point to studies showing that violence or video games can cause violence. But then again, I was kidding about anime and video games. But then again, I'm very bad about deadpan being a deadpan humor type of thing. And then with Jeremy, with the whole fighting back and forth about that stuff too. I don't know. I haven't watched a bunch of Jeremy's stuff. I know he gets a lot of flack for a bunch of different stuff. I'm indifferent about him. Again, in the end, everybody that I talked about in here, there's stuff I agree with and stuff I disagree with. My gosh, almost like we're all human, you know? and that in the end, we should just make good entertainment stuff. And if violence happens to be a byproduct of it, the majority of people understand that it's not real and they know it's the difference between right and wrong sort of thing. And you're just going to have some of those weirdos in there, that do like snuff films. If you do not have experience or see violence, how are you going to be ready to take over the world? I'll tell you what I'm ready for. Some delicious food. Oops, I guess I should be more specific about it. Some sausage. By sausage, I mean kielbasa sausage. But you'll never ever see me enjoy violence as a means of entertainment and stuff.
Get the gun! Shoot it in the head! Hurry!
Should I not have laughed at that because Shake got shot in the hand? Is that wrong of me? Oh my goodness. But who doesn't enjoy,
There was a firefight!
who doesn't enjoy a good firefight, Thank you, my bald head. All I can say is that in the end, we need to stop this infighting. And if you're going to continue,
Go yourself.
that's what I have to say. I need to make more Aqua Teen Hunger Force quick clips and Mike Tyson Mysteries Pigeon. Oh,
That was hot and spicy.
dude, Piccolo got owned in that clip. I guess I'm a bad man. All right. Well, that reached the 2-hour mark. Thanks to everyone who decided to listen into my rambling and reading, and for sure a lot of like, wait, did I read this wrong? Am I retardo? Sort of thing. So feel free to like and subscribe. Turn on notifications to know when I go live. We are on YouTube and Rumble. Use the American used to be great country from Carl. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude, that's gonna make me like make a catalog. It sucks because Melon that I use, like I can't organize my video clips. I should like suggest that to him to organize it to where it's like, all right, here's my Norm Macdonald folder. But yeah, I don't know. I am just one pup that just wants to be entertained, and if violence happens to be inside of it, so be it. Because I'm not retarded. Because I understand what's fake, what's real, and what is treading the line of actually, affecting people. Will you have be having a guest podcast soon? I am trying my best to reach out to other people to get their sweet buttholes on the show. I don't know what that means. Probably very poor choice of words on me. But all these video clips are desensitizing me from being a respectable gentleman. No, to answer your question, I'm always down to try to get new guests on the show and to hear their take. I've reached out to some people. We'll see if we can hopefully schedule something. But yeah, I'm just here to hang out, have some peeps on if they want to talk and share their life stories or just connect via entertainment just like what this podcast was all about. I asked because I'd like to see you cover the Zelda Kotaku article. Oh, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, that was so fucking stupid. And I'm so happy Kotaku is weeping over it because they can. Once again, they.
Huh. Go yourself.
As far as I'm concerned, because they are a bunch of.
You insignificant little fuck!
You can invite Shaney on the podcast. Yeah, I can probably reach out. Any site that craps on their users deserve to fail.
They've been serial crushed by some huge friggin' guy.
Dude, I love Willem Dafoe in the Boondocks Saints. I also do enjoy the Boondocks, but the Boondocks Saints. Gotta always remember to add the Saints at the end, because that's whole two totally different titles. But yeah, I'll see if Shaney wants to get on the show. I know she wanted to talk about like faith and whatnot too. So that was something that I said I'd set up with Joe and stuff like that. So we'll get him on. Oh, by the way, go check out Death, Death, Death. It should be in the descriptions, by the way. I think we're trying to break 85K on that fucker. Let me check my description. See what's up. All this talk about violence and stuff, it's desensitizing me, man. Can't tell the difference between right and wrong anymore. Everything's just blurring together. Death, death, death. Ooh, super close to 85K. Anybody who enjoys gratuitous violence, completely the opposite of what Matt Walsh thinks. Check out this this comic. Joe, I'm sorry in advance if I am doing a terrible job plugging this comic by incorporating violence. No, I'm just messing around. But Death, Death, Death. It's a sci-fi fantasy graphic novel about the family unit, survival and war. Very influential when it comes to like being influenced by Berserk, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and just a very the supernatural elements of like the Bible and whatnot. And of course, just a beautiful detail, as you can see. Beautiful detail. I really love the coloring. There's so many different tiers you can look into if you want to check it out. Oh no, violence. Censor it immediately. Think of the children. But yeah, help us break that 85K. I said I'd be signing off like a long time ago, and I just keep fucking stalling. Ricada Law's on Camelcast, and they're talking about Matty Boy. Matty Boy would be salty if he saw this. Oh, well. Yeah, go check out. I don't think I can. Can I raid Camelot? Camelot would be a good guest on the show. I know just from what I've seen, there's some stuff I disagree with, but he'd be a good pup on the show. Yeah, I don't think I can. I know YouTube implemented rating, but I think you have to people need to follow one another, and then you can send them both ways. Trying to get Nick on the show too. We're trying to set that up too. So yeah, if you guys like, Camelot and Ricada Law, go check them out. Camelcast. So yeah. Today was interesting. Today was very much interesting. Like I said, the stupid infighting stuff. The right is doing a terrible job combating the culture war, specifically involving the entertainment industry. I think we need to be more. I think we need to understand that we can use the stuff that you might think is satanic and stuff, and one, not have it be the case. 2, be as just and if not more entertaining. And 3, be perfectly fine with everything. I wonder how Matt would react to John Wick. I need to watch John Wick too. I need to watch chapter 4. I haven't seen it yet. Speaking of which, I also need to check out the Berserker comic that Keanu Reeves wrote. Again, going towards that violent, man. All this talk about violence is changing me. I can just feel the wickedness building up inside of me. Or that's just gas.
I'll take a pound of nuts.
That's a lot of nuts!
All of a sudden, I just remembered about Kung Pao Enter the Fist, and then I've just been watching it again. Good morning, Greg. Oh, yep, checking out. I think I'm checking out too. I've stalled long enough. Thanks to everyone who supported the show by just hanging out. Again, best you can do, feel free to like and subscribe. Hit notifications to turn on. I know on Rumble, I'm also, my locals is also connected over there, as well as any other social medias listed in the description below. And I also do, a lot of the stuff I also do is gaming, violent video games. Sorry if that was quite loud. I hope it wasn't, but I play the most bloodiest violence of video games out there in the world. Torturing little puppies and stuff like that. I'm there. I'm fucking there, man. Just kidding. I'm actually playing Mario and Luigi Dream Team. A really good game. Should be playing that again. What day is it? Wednesday? Should be doing that tomorrow if my tension headaches simmer down. But yeah, thanks again. See you guys later. Goodbye. Don't do drugs unless it's for medicinal purposes.
Get the gun! Shoot it in the head! Hurry!